Ladies and gentlemen, from an undisclosed location in Portland, Oregon, the spare bedroom, it's time for MTG Tonight with your host, Jake Boss.
Tonight on the program, we are joined by the professor from Tolarian Community College, really big show tonight, with New World Aviation Committee, who's going to be taking us in and out of commercial break, which is really, of course, just 2 seconds of black. Now, without further ado, please welcome, through the magic of television, the professor. How do you feel?
I feel very confident, very secure, very refreshed.
How was that trip through the blind eternities?
Well, it was more just a drive into Beaverton.
Yeah. So you are new to our fair city.
I am.
How did you make the choice on Portland, of all places?
Well, the San Francisco Bay Area, where I just narrowly escaped, is now one of the most expensive areas on the planet. I believe it's more expensive than Manhattan, which is outrageous. And I needed to stay somewhat on the West Coast. Seattle is going the way of San Francisco, and Los Angeles is where I was born and raised, and I'll never set foot in it again, so help me. Which leaves us with fair Oregon. And we have a lot of friends up here in Portland, and it was always a real trip, a real exciting vacation to come visit. And I said, why not Portland? I know prices are going up here, but compared to where I'm coming from, it's a
You're
walk
probably
in
the
the
only
park.
person here who's like, wow, this is great. I love the price. This is fantastic.
Yeah, but I really like Portland. I love the cuisine.
There's something in the air here that's fresher.
Right.
Maybe it's being in the valley or whatever.
Yeah.
So we have a GP coming up here
Yes,
in the next
cannot
couple of
wait.
weeks. What are your plans?
My plan is to go to the GP, play some Magic, meet some people, have a lot of fun.
So being the largest MTG YouTuber right now.
Mm-hmm. I got people nipping at my heels here.
Yeah, that's why we brought him over.
Right.
Now, but being the largest MTG YouTuber, what's it like to go to a GP?
It's exciting. I mean, I certainly have a lot of people come up and recognize me, and I love that. You know, my rule for anyone watching is if you see me, please come up and say hi. Don't be shy. Or if you are shy, come up anyway. I'm shy. And so we'll be shy together, but I'll be happy to meet you. I go to the GP more to meet the members of the community these days than even to play Magic, which is not to imply I don't love playing Magic at a GP, especially now that we have popper side events at all GPs.
It's nice to be able to pick up a deck for 20 bucks, double sleeve it, throw it in your favorite box, and keep it forever. We get that out of Commander, which is awesome, but there's something about 60 card constructed where you memorize these lines of play, and it feels good to play that song that you've always played, you know?
Well, it's also a lot like Legacy Light. You're playing with people's favorite overpowered cards. I mean, a lot of Pauper's mainstay cards are banned in other formats or will never be printed in those formats. And you can now qualify for the Pro Tour by playing Pauper or the online mocks.
Wow.
This is a new thing. It's going on right now. You just simply log on to Magic Online and compete in a competitive Pauper league, and the points that you earn through that, like all competitive leagues, could lead you all the way to the Pro Tour. So that's fantastic news.
Yeah.
We're going to have somebody, at least one person, if not more, at the Pro Tour that got there by playing Pauper.
A lot of people want to dump on MTGO and say that the interface is terrible.
Easy to do so.
But I would argue that it's almost easier than finding a local game store for some people. So
well, for some people, they don't have a local game store,
Exactly.
or maybe their local game store isn't a great game store. They're not all great, and so they might have a kind of a lousy local game store that is not doing what it needs to do to cultivate a good Magic community, is not being fair in their pricing or events and things like that, and other issues. And so Magic Online is there. Arena is there. I do feel there is something to being there with the other person directly across from you, but I'm happy to have the choice. I'm happy to have the options, and I'm extremely happy that these clients allow people who have no other means of playing Magic to play Magic. I say that paper Magic is still always better than digital Magic, but digital Magic is better than no Magic at all.
Right.
Always.
I think that the appeal for paper Magic, for those of us who are making MTG media, is we're in it for the people.
Yeah.
We love to talk about it with people. We love talking shop. And so socially, it's really nice to have something that we can all share common knowledge of. Say, hey, are you excited about whatever this may be?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why Magic the Gathering is a bit of a beacon to people with social anxiety, because it gives us a path towards interacting, whereas we might not otherwise have that path. I'm someone it may not come across because I have a YouTube channel and I'm performing for the camera on that YouTube channel, but I actually have a lot of social anxiety. And there are points in my life where my social anxiety was very crippling. But with Magic, I found that I'd sit down and, as opposed to thinking, I don't know that I'm supposed to be here, I feel like maybe I'm not supposed to be here, I think I am supposed to be here. People make lifelong friends through Magic the Gathering. People get married because they met through Magic the Gathering.
GP Vegas is here.
Absolutely, and the year before that. And that is just a few drops in the larger bucket of people who have made those sort of relationships through these games.
So one of the interesting things about YouTube is you can share yourself into the camera in private to thousands of people. And it kind of creates this one-way friendship where hundreds of thousands of people like me know you a little bit better than, just some guy off the street.
Right. Someone yelled at me on the street just yesterday when I was walking around downtown Portland.
Oh, yeah?
A car screeched by and someone shouted, "Tolarian, Professor, Tolarian Academy, I love your channel," and as they drove off. And I thought, oh, it's Tolarian Community College, but thank you.
Close enough. Consistent branding, and then there was a car crash.
Right, no.
So when you sit down for something like a Spell Slingers event at a GP, and these people have plenty of prior knowledge as to who you are,
right,
and plenty of things to say, they've been waiting in line, a lot of them just for you. How do you feel? What goes through your mind when someone first sits down?
I feel overwhelmingly that it is something I need to earn that I have not yet. And so my goal is to earn it. When someone, like what you just described, is very humbling, somewhat even embarrassing to me, in that I feel like that should not be for me. And so since I do feel genuinely very strongly that that should not be for me, my goal is to deserve it. And so my goal is to ensure that this person has a great time playing with me, interacting with me. If they are having trouble in the conversation, despite my social anxiety, it is up to me to do what I can to make them feel comfortable, to continue a conversation, to give them ins and outs, to ask to be personable, even though I've maybe been there for 7 hours and I'm tired, and that basically where I'm at and what I'm getting is something I need to work to earn.
I can say from personal experience, last year, you and I sat down for a Spell Slinger event, and that small 10-minute event, we played a pack war, and it meant a lot to me. And as I was walking away, you said, "Hey, wait a minute, you forgot your cards." And the card that I didn't draw happened to be the Nissa Planeswalker from that set. And it was just every bit of that was totally perfect, because you've been pretty open about how Loading Ready Run, they were your heroes.
They still are.
And fantastic people. If you haven't checked them out and you're here,
even after meeting them, turns out they're still my heroes.
Yeah, Graham, he was fantastic when I met him too. Yeah. But for me, you're a lot like my Loading Ready Run. So it's like we wouldn't be here today. All of us, the crew and this ridiculous set and all this stuff, if it wasn't for what you're doing. So I just want to say that it's important, and thank you.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, back to the question.
I hope one day to earn that wonderful praise you've just given me.
Yeah. So as an adjunct professor, you stood in front of dozens of people at a time who you barely knew. As a YouTuber, you're in front of hundreds of thousands of people. And as a musician and actor, your dad found himself as a performer. So how much of your tendency to be on stage is nature versus nurture.
He did want me to be an actor when I was a kid. He wanted to monetize me because I was a particularly cute kid, I must say. And he saw within his industry that he had been largely unsuccessful. And I mean, my father had been in a few commercials, in some very minor movies, but otherwise unsuccessful. And he saw me as a way to maybe have a successful actor in the family. And I hated it. He took me in for acting lessons, and I hated them. And he tried to get me an agent, and I hated the agent. And I was in a couple small films, very small. I have not been able to find a copy of it. If anyone on the internet can find To the Moon, Alice, the independent 30-minute short film production about a homeless family living on a television studio set, I would love that access to that because I have a line in it.
Even if it's on beta tape or whatever, we'll digitize.
I wish I had a copy of myself. It was me in third grade. But I did not want to be an actor. And I actually kind of rebelled against my father in many ways. But also, I wanted to be an artist still. I wanted to be a writer and a creator. And so even though I was trying not to be a musician and an actor like my father, I still went into the arts. I went into English. Becoming a teacher was a safety net initially towards not being an unemployed artist. And I found a love for it. And I did say to myself, in a way, I was acting. I was an incredibly energetic, passionate teacher. I was someone who I would read passages in front of the class with like real, fiery emotion. And sometimes people would even giggle a little bit as I was there saying, through each road I have traveled, each person that I have met, and I was really, I'd get into it, and I did say I am acting as, this is an acting gig. It's just one that I have every day. And I loved it. I really loved it. The thing I didn't love about teaching was the bureaucracy and the administration, but the act of being in the classroom was fantastic.
So when you were a teenager, a lot of this manifested itself as well when maybe not just your dad, but social norms told you to go left, you'd go right.
Yes, that was me in a nutshell.
So how do you see that in yourself as an adult? Is that still around?
It's still around. It's a little less so. I was very much going left when people told me right, or vice versa, as a form of rebellion against everything. And these days, I am much more oriented towards finding modes of success. And if that means going left sometimes when I'm told to go left, I'll do it. But I do still, we were just, again, talking before the show about how when I started out, the algorithm wanted 4-minute videos. And I even had people such as Jimmy and Josh sit me down and say, because they knew YouTube, and they were like, you can't do 12-minute product reviews, cut it into individual reviews of each deck box and put up 4-minute videos. And I said, no, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And then the algorithm, I thought it was really funny that when the algorithm switched to wanting 10-minute plus videos, a lot of people in the comments would then start saying, oh, look, another 10-minute plus video. He's just playing to the algorithm. And I'm like, fool, I was doing these videos long before the algorithm liked them. I do me. And I still do have this innate kind of rebellion.
Like on your episode of Game Nights, I think it was with, well, not yours, Jimmy and Josh's, with Melissa. I think you played a Blade of Selves really early. And everyone's like, oh, well, someone's really showing up to the table.
Right.
And you're like, well, I'm just going to play the card. If someone removes it, then they remove it. But I'd rather play the card.
Right.
I tell you what, that is some serious philosophy.
Yes.
That I've adopted in my life.
Yeah.
Like, dude, whatever. Let's do it until it stops working.
I'm pretty sure the card did get removed. But here's the thing. If I had not done it, I might not have ever had the opportunity. If I was waiting for the best time to play it, maybe I didn't get to play it. And maybe they wouldn't have had the removal and it would have paid off big. But that's me too. I really do. I'm someone who likes to roll the dice and see if my dumb luck will pay off. I ride that. I've got a lot of red mage in me.
So I've only been doing this for about 4 months. We finally released a couple of months ago, and we've gotten 3 episodes in, and I'm working a full-time job. And this is really tough. How did you do it for so long before you quit your job?
Alcohol. Lots of it. I'm joking.
Yeah.
But I started it as a hobby, and I wanted it to just be in isolation. It was just meant to be a singular episode, then a few episodes, then a kind of gamut of episodes. And then it turned into something that I wanted to do regularly, but just for pleasure. And then it started developing into something else. I was filming in my basement. It was fine for the time being. The early days, I never gave any belief or thought to it turning into even a part-time job. My goal was $100 from Google because they won't cut a check for less than $100, and I wanted to walk into my local game store with $100 and say, one booster box, please. This is on Google.
You've exceeded Wizards of the Coast's numbers. What's the next impossible task?
I guess what I need to do is completely stop all Magic content and just do Hearthstone content. That way Wizards of the Coast will pay me to create Magic content.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting position to be in. Again, I feel that if I make videos of other games, other things like that, it should be stuff that I genuinely play. So no, I won't be doing Hearthstone videos, even though they're more popular, more successful, because I don't play Hearthstone. I play Pokemon TCG, and I'm gonna go buy Let's Go Eevee, tonight or tomorrow, and maybe I'll do a video on that. And I watch Doctor Who, and maybe I'll do a video on that. So as I bridge out, it'll be about who I am and what I'm interested in. What I have is something very special, and I want to nurture and grow that.
So you've brought plenty of products for us to take a look at today.
Yes.
When we come back, we're going to check that out. Don't go anywhere. Don't fall asleep, because we're going to be right back. We are back. We are joined by the professor from Tolarian Community College. Prof, what have you brought for us today?
I have brought some things to show off, as it were.
All right, so what do we have?
Well, I want to start with the basic, the Ultra Pro Satin Tower. This is what I consider to be, in many ways, the best basic deck box on the market, and possibly, in all honesty, the best deck box on the market because of its price and function. This one is a, I don't know what they call this particular
like a glossy metallic
finish, but it's the same sort of paint that they use on cars. So this is actually a car finish, which I think actually speaks to some of the longevity of the exteriors. I have an Ultra Pro tower or two from before I even had a YouTube channel, and they're still fairly tough to get open there. And what's great about them is that you can use them for just about any deck. I have a commander deck in here, plus tokens, and there's even room for a few extra tokens, so people who have that can use that in the Satin Tower. We've got the compartment on the bottom for dice encounters, and it's $10.
It's pretty good for the money.
Everything else that I'm about to bring out, you have to compare to $10. And it's very hard to beat, because even when you find a great deck box that maybe you would rather have than a Satin Tower, even though it functions the same way, because how are you going to beat the function of 100 plus double-sleeved cards plus compartment for dice? You're only going to match it. And then you just ask yourself, when you find one that's like, oh, it looks nicer, it feels nicer, do you really want to pay double, triple, quadruple?
And how many times are you going to be buying it?
Right, how many times are you going to be buying it?
You don't have just one deck ever.
Right, that's another thing too. So next up, this is another favorite of mine. This is the Ultimate Guard. I've got my famous this is the Modern Merfolk deck right here, my Modern Merfolk deck. And it's got this lovely little removable compartment so that you're not just dumping your cards out. You've got them here. When you take your deck out, your sideboard can sit inside. Beautiful Xenoskin. Have you seen one of these up close yet?
I haven't felt the Xenoskin ever. I've seen those new ones that they have the heat responsive.
The Chroma Skin.
That's what it is.
I don't know that they have the Chroma Skin in the flippin' trays, though. And then it's also got the top compartment for dice up here. So it's very nice, very elegant. But it's also twice as much as the tower. By the way, here's one thing that the tower doesn't have. I suppose, which is that this is 75 plus double-sleeved cards, so they're not jostling around.
Right.
So for my standard, modern, legacy, vintage decks, I can have something that is properly sized to them if that's important to me. And they also make this for 100 plus. So this comes in 2 sizes.
And what price point is this at?
This price point is usually, it's a few bucks more for the Commander one, but this is in the $20 range. So I believe this one's $18.99 and it's $20.99 for the Commander sized one. So we are talking double the Satin Tower. And that definitely is a factor to consider.
And when you're talking about a 60-card deck, most cards in this deck will be about $10 at least.
Right.
Like a single Lord of Atlantis.
Well, and I mean, that's one thing too. When people do start complaining, and I'm going to bring out some even more expensive deck boxes in a moment, but when people do start complaining about my presenting expensive deck boxes, there is the point of, yeah, that is very expensive. It's the cost of one of your judge foils in your Commander deck. When I see people with a $1,000 legacy deck or more shoving it in a $2 plastic deck box, it's like, why don't you have some polished walnut? Now, this is a new one.
Ooh.
This is the Dragon Shield Nest.
I've wanted to get my hands on these for a while.
All right, so I want you, go ahead and open it.
I'm putting a lot of pressure here.
Yeah.
It took a lot to just open it from there.
Okay.
And so how often in your bag is it
Well,
gonna be?
the other problem is also that, and I love it. I think this is really functional. So look at that.
It's above the Satin Tower for me, personally, just because when I open up my Joda Commander deck out of my Satin Tower,
Right.
I put the top down,
Right.
and now it's double the square footage.
Sure, and that's really nice, except that if you have your cards in here, and I realize that you don't need to, but if you have your cards in here, it is difficult without jostling the cards to get this separate. Now, obviously, the solution, as was pointed out to me in my video, is just separate it before the cards get put back in. But overall, this is another fabulous deck box, but it's another, I believe, $23 deck box. These also come in a size that does not have the tray.
And the fact that I don't have to wrestle the top of my tower off, I tell you what, I think I might like this more than the Satin Tower.
All right, well, let's see. The opposite direction is one that I like more than the Satin Tower, because I have about 800 Magic decks. And having 800 Satin Towers takes up a lot of space. In fact, if you could bring the Satin Tower back out, this is probably my favorite. And it's the Ultimate Guard Boulder. And it has done everything to compress. Now, this is for 70 cards, so I guess that's not a fair comparison. But the 101 still does not take up much more space, obviously. And they've done everything they can do to compress the size of this to just hold your deck, and yet to do so in a really protective, compact, excellent way. And these things also run just a couple of bucks. I mean, I believe these are about $3-4.99 each. Yeah. And so I have a million of them. They come in different colors. They're fantastic.
Wow. And you can just have these jostling around in your backpack.
Or they make a carrying case for them if you want to get fancy, which is really cool to open up. I use that for my battle box. So I have like a popper battle box, and it'll hold 5 or 6 boulders of the 70 card size. It's a great way for me to limit my Commander decks, because I'm a bit of a Commander deck addict in that I build way too many Commander decks. And so when I said to myself, all right, you can only have 5 Commander decks inside the Ultimate Guard archive, that's what we're going to do. And so this is just kind of the opposite direction, especially for when you've got a lot of decks. You can get a lot of these. They're half the price of the tower, essentially, and you can get twice as many in the same amount of space. When I had at one point 7 or 8 towers lining my bookshelf, it was very cumbersome, but 7 or 8 of these, it's just right up to there. It just does not take up that much space. And so I'm such a fan of the Boulder for those reasons. Nope, can't hold my counters or dice. But how do you, also that's the other thing too, when you have 7 of these, do each one need 2 spin downs, 10 counters? I like to have,
assets.
yeah, I've got a little dice bag that goes in my backpack, and that takes care of that.
Okay.
Absolutely. But I'd like to show you next something very special, and what I'm going to show you, this is brand new, for the first time ever, on MTG Tonight, from Aaron Kane, maker of the best custom deck boxes on the market. This is known as the switchback.
Whoa. That is cool as hell.
Now, I don't know, do we need to actually turn it to show the
camera?
Here?
Please, I got a giant desk in front of me.
Basically, right, we've got this beautiful, but it opens up for 2 deck box compartments with removable sideboard dividers, which you can, of course, when you have this made, have completely customized. So you pick out what kind and color and depth of wood you want. There's an inlay of a contrasting wood here. You can tell him. So people are probably like asking, well, what size is it? It's whatever size you want. You can have this for 70 cards, 150 if you're that one person.
It looks
whatever you need. And it's just so great. I keep this on my desk and I put 2 decks in it for my own dual decks. When a friend comes over, I'll just say, all right, Jake, here you go. Or did you want to be Izzet or Golgari? And we can take it out and play. But of course, you can get these custom made to your specifications. In terms of price, it depends on the wood that you get. I think you can get these as low if you go with the cheaper wood. Don't quote me on this, speak to Aaron Kane. But I'm pretty sure you can get these if you get the cheapest wood in the $100 range, possibly the $90 range.
Wow.
And then you get more expensive the more fancy you get. Obviously, that isn't something you do for all your deck boxes. It's what you do for one. It's what you do for that one special commander deck or that one special pair of dueling legacy decks that you have and want to play with. But it's just such a beautiful piece.
I think that for someone like me, I've got so many Kaladesh fat packs and crap like that in my office right now.
Right.
But something like this that's actually functional and beautiful as furniture in our Magic lives, I can build my commander deck and have this on my desk. And have the potentials here, the firm in the deck. This is actually 2 IKEA desks that are screwed together.
Yes.
But, I got them for $10 for the 2 of them.
Anyway, that is a good deal.
I could have gotten a satin tower, but I opted for the desk.
Right.
So
I have one more thing, which is the opposite direction. It is a product no longer available that is one of the best products that was ever made for deck storage and transport. And this is an ancient item known as the Dragon's Egg. This is no longer made. This hasn't been made for years. It was made by a San Francisco company called Power 9, I believe.
That sounds familiar.
Yes. And what this has is I'll show, you can actually just take it out. It's not a problem. It's not meant to be taken out like regularly, but you can. And this will hold 4 60-card decks in an absolute, go ahead, try and destroy that. In an absolute, indestructible resin, more so than anything else that I've shown. They offered, ironically, a lifetime guarantee, but the company did not last.
Yeah,
so I
who's
guess
going
that's
to be
less than
around
one.
for that?
But seriously, this is, I'll break your desk before I break this. And the container is highly water resistant, tear proof. It's just fantastic. And the idea is that it's so compact. And the idea for me of having 4 decks just in this little bag here was just fantastic. Their biggest problem was that they designed it, unfortunately, for 60-card decks, so it wouldn't hold a sideboard, wouldn't hold double-sleeved, so I would actually have 2 double-sleeved decks in the 4 compartment. And the problem is that this was so expensive for them to make for themselves that when people were like, well, wait, I want 2 commander decks instead, they didn't think of those options, and
it's another $30,000 to open the mold.
Yeah, probably. Beautiful item. I wish they were still in business.
But theoretically, we could make something, say, you pull a few boulders apart, glue them together, put them in a camera bag.
I could break a boulder. I couldn't break this. I honestly, if I had the boulder, I could step on it. I could step on this empty, and I weigh 200 pounds, and I am standing on it.
Wow.
And if I did that to the boulder empty, it would break. Probably. I haven't actually tested that. I don't know that I want to start doing the professor weight test. This is into freaking structable.
And that's probably why they went out of business, is using too much material.
Sure, I'm sure. You got to just make crap, and that's how you stay in business forever.
So how do you feel if I'm looking for a deck box for my brand new commander deck?
Yes.
For your value, do you believe that it's still a satin tower that takes the cake?
Well, the question that I'd have for you is, do you want storage for dice and tokens?
I assume that I already have it.
If you do not want storage for dice and tokens, the single best thing that you can get is probably the Ultimate Guard Boulder because of compact design. I would hold up the Boulder and I would hold up the Satin Tower, and I'd say your choice is more compact design. You don't have any room for tokens in that thing. If you double sleeved in Dragon Shields with thick inner sleeves, like some people are like, I can barely get that boulder closed. The tower has room for 15 plus extra tokens in there. Do you want that? It depends on your needs as a player in that regard, but those are the two best bang for buck products that are on the market today. And if you've got that wonderful Commander or Legacy deck, contacting Aaron Kane about a custom built thing, it doesn't have to be the Switchblade that I showed. You know, he has a variety of styles and things that he can craft for you. You describe to him what you want, and you're gonna be very happy with what you get.
As a patron, I supported you and you sent me a signed card, and I find a way to put it into my card draw deck as much as I can. And
there it is.
Whenever I drop it.
One of the rare ones, by the way, I almost always sign in black ink, and I thought, blue might go more aesthetically, and I didn't really. I just had one marker, and so only a few people got a blue signature. So
well, that makes it even more special.
Blue, yes.
And it's 4 mana for draw 2 cards at instant speed. It's fringe playable, but I can make it work.
It isn't the card. To me, the image on 7th Ed Inspiration, before I had a logo, this was my logo. When I just had the one video, I needed to choose an icon, and I, again, didn't imagine that I was going to be doing this more than the one video, and I was just like, I just want a Magic card art as my image. And I just love 7th Ed Inspiration, that he's like, I've got it. And for a long time, because it was 1 year until I got my logo, and over the course of the first year, that picture was what was representative of the college. And so that's a very special image to me in that sense. So when I wanted to thank the people that supported me on Patreon with a signed card as a thank you for that support, I thought, well, it's not a great card. It could go in a queue. It could go in a queue. Just the
target
fact
player
that
actually matters. Like as someone who's forcing this into my deck, target player with a consecrated Sphinx.
So yeah, what is the deck that you made for it?
Well, it's just my group hug deck. But the reason that this deck box is out is this card meant a lot to me because I was battling depression and just getting into Magic kind of at the same time. And to me, this represents I had a friend it was that one-way friendship. But I wanted to return the favor with another fringe playable card. I cracked this myself.
This is far from Cyclonic Rift. This is
I signed it, and I want you to have that.
Well, thank you.
I chose Cyclonic Rift because, now you have to play it because it goes in every deck.
Absolutely irritate my play group with this to no end. Thank you, Jake.
Well, that's all the time we have for the professor. We're going to be joined by New World Aviation Committee right afterwards. So don't go away. Big thank you to Prof for being here. It's been an amazing episode.
Thanks for having me.
I really hope to have you back.
Sure.
Because this has been so much fun. Don't go away. Don't skip ahead to any time codes because we're going to be right back. Performing their song, I've Got So Many Good Ideas. Please welcome New World Aviation Committee.
I'm trying to put it all together. I got so many ideas in my head. I say, okay, that's enough, and then remember another little thing to be said. I said, I'm trying. You know I'm trying. think about it, it escapes me. Hey, I wonder if the original thought was pure. And if it was, would that thought still hurt me? If I had to try, was I really sure? So I stopped trying. Yeah, I stopped trying. Stop trying. People, I stopped trying, yeah. After all that, I'm still thinking how each part would sound every little bit. That the engineer of my mind inside tinkering with the producer who says, we've got another hit. I don't have to try. I don't have to try. Yes, I've got so many good ideas. Yes, I've got so many good ideas. Hey.
That's our show. Big thank you to New World Aviation Committee and the professor from Tolarian Community College. If you like what we're doing, subscribe to us on YouTube. But if you love what we're doing, consider supporting us on Patreon. Every dollar makes a difference. And currently we're making one show every 2 weeks right now. But in the future, we can boost that up and add in some extra content and stuff like that. But one more time, please welcome New World Aviation Committee. Good night.